Crimson Desert, a game with more divisive reviews than I have ever seen, and even more content shitting on it. And you know what? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of seeing content creators and game reviewers releasing videos about this game when it looks like they barely even touched the surface. A popular example of it being Darkside Phil quitting after a 20-minute long boss fight that he did way too early.
We're having a competent game developer. I'm curious, what happened? What am I playing this for? I don't have to play this. The game is awful. Yeah, I'm sure that's why I f***ing did it. The game sucked. Now that you actually got to the first point in the game where you actually have to fight for real, the game is terrible.
I mean, come on. He basically still has all the starter gear from the very beginning of the game, while trying to take on a boss you're not supposed to do till much later. Just yesterday, I saw a TikTok of a creator shitting on the controls of the game because he couldn't figure out how to go down a ladder.
I can't even go down the ladder, bruh. Do I gotta aim at it to go down the ladder? How do I go down the ladder? Like, how do I go down the ladder?
One of the most upsetting clips I saw was a clip of Moist Critical talking about the game.
I'll lay out every complaint all at once here. The story is terrible. The main quests are beyond boring. So far, every main quest is talk to random person, find sheep, or find cow. Only just now is that changing up a little bit now that we're finding, like, old members, but even then it's still terrible. The combat's pretty decent. Like, I can definitely see, like, a big glimmer of hope there with the combat picking up. The open world is... I haven't done a ton of exploring, so I don't know a lot about it. The looting is painful. You have to individually loot every single thing, including coins, so if there's a pile of coins, you pick them up one by one. It's just so tedious. Is talk to random person, find sheep, or find cow. Only just now is that changing up a little bit now that we're finding, like, old members, but even then it's still terrible. The combat's pretty decent. Like, I can definitely see, like, a big glimmer of hope there with the combat.
And I like Moist Critical a lot. I'm a huge fan, so I'm not saying anything negative about him, but I cannot agree with what he said about this game. He talks about the main quests being boring, but the quest he's talking about is in the second chapter of the game, which is extremely early on, and you can get to that point within just a few hours. When I watch these videos, it's like these people never really took their time to figure the game out or understand the mechanics or even the world. I know I sound like I'm glazing this game pretty hard, which in a way I am, but after having several hours in the game already and I see these clips, I just can't understand what they're trying to say. There's definitely some valid criticism the game deserves. A lot of the hate just feels forced. I'm gonna give you a few good reasons why, if you're any sort of a fantasy or RPG fan, that this game is 100% worth your time and that you don't need to listen to a lot of the naysayers of this game. So we'll start with one of the main complaints about the game, which is how clunky the controls are.
How do I go down the ladder?
Now, I don't entirely agree with this. The control scheme is definitely not what I'm used to in this, like, style of game, but it's very similar to other games that you know and love, namely GTA 5. In this game, just like in GTA, whether you're on Xbox or PlayStation or however you're playing the game, you tap A or tap X to run, just like in those games. Same thing with jump. The jump button is the same, so that shouldn't really be a new concept to people, but they're acting like it's just the craziest thing on planet Earth if that's how you move or sprint in a video game. The attack buttons is what kind of threw me off at first. It's the right bumper and right trigger is heavy and regular attack, which is, you know, not anything crazy. For me personally, it just took a couple hours of combat to get used to, or a couple hours of gameplay, I should say, to get used to doing that. And once I figured it out, I don't have a problem with it. Now, where the criticism is valid is how it can feel a little, like, laggy, I guess, when you're doing combos. I feel like it should come out and it doesn't. You know, that can be kind of frustrating, but it's not a huge deal and it's something pretty small. Also, the developers have already released a patch 2 days after the game released, acknowledging these control issues and saying they're both working on it and have implemented fixes already. So I don't really think that the control argument is all that sound. I mean, there's, again, valid points, but if you just take some time to get used to it, it's fine. So let me get into one of the biggest complaints outside of the controls. Something that Moist Critical noted, and a few other people I've seen online note, is that the main story isn't really there. I disagree with that completely. This game's main story, to me personally, is pretty unique in a way that the way it wants you to tackle it is not normal. So there's some minor spoilers here for the very beginning of the game, but they're pretty minor, because they're literally in the first chapter. When the game is getting set up and it's building the lore, then the very first like mission, once you get to the first town, there's a beggar on the street, and the game wants you to toss him a copper, 1 copper. Okay, you toss him a copper and he gives you this key, and he, you know, tells you, yeah, you're a good guy, basically. You're just a good dude.
Virtue paves the path to wisdom, which shall bring us together once more.
And then soon after that, you go down into the sewer and you find this woman who's tied up and you rescue her. Same thing as the old man. She tells you, keep being a good person, blah, blah, blah.
Care for those around you, as you have done for me.
I didn't really think much of it at first. Later on, in the same, I believe it's also chapter 1, could be chapter 2. Again, very early game. You meet them again. They're some of the main protagonists of the game, and they tell you like the abyss is in chaos, you need to fix it. Basically telling you your purpose. The female character, I believe she goes by like White Dove or White Crow. I have to look it up and I'll put it on the screen. She tells you that you need to keep being a good person and help people around you.
You're the woman from the sewer.
The kindness you showed me back then will guide you on your path.
And that's kind of one of your main goals in this universe. Let me rewind just a little bit here. In the prologue, you get murdered basically, and your Greyhound clan gets dispersed. All right, everybody goes second ways. Most people die, and they think you're dead as well. So it's kind of cool to be this like unknown character, kind of like a mythical creature in a way. Like, you know, you're a Greyhound, you're this badass person. They think you're dead. When you are in this town, no one really treats you great. You know, the world's full of bandits. No one really likes you or even wants you in their town. Going back to this Dove character, Crow character, she tells you to be good to everybody around you, and that's important because one of the game's biggest mechanics is centered around being good to people. So this is where I say that the main story isn't really like normal, because part of what it tells you to do is be good, do things for people, spread kindness basically, right? Once you get past that point, you're kind of introduced and you start to notice this mechanic called a contribution. You say hello to somebody, you know, or give a beggar a coin or a copper, you get +5 contribution. You steal something, you get -5. And I didn't really think much of the mechanic. Soon after that, you start seeing posters around the village of Hernand asking for help. The NPCs there, or the characters in this world, asking you for assistance with things, right? You start helping them out and you get massive contribution points for doing so. On top of, mind you, the game really rewards you for doing side quests. You get inventory boosts, you get good loot from it. On top of a lot of the side quests, which I'll talk more about later, can be pretty unique. You know, just real quick on that, like I was in a quarry, I had to retake this quarry, right, for this one lord. I get there and you have to liberate it, and to liberate it, you have to defeat, you know, however many enemies. I kid you not, I straight up pour through people for like 45 minutes to an hour. You're just like this kind of badass, you know, it's like power fantasy style character, and you're just ripping through people for like 45 minutes taking this quarry back, and it was awesome, and it's a side quest. But again, going back to the contribution, like you find yourself like wanting to help people because not only do you get good loot, but this contribution's great as well because you get a unique currency for doing that, which you can spend toward stronger gear, which is also, you know, always great because again, it rewards you for doing things around the world, not just the main quest. So the game is essentially telling you to help people, to go out and explore and do these things for people because you're going to get rewarded for it, which is awesome. The main quest is telling you to do that. You know, the game, it's very obvious early on, the game doesn't want you to just rip through the main story. It wants you to go out there and explore, meet new NPCs, pick up quests, do these quests, and the game heavily rewards you for it as well. That's where I say like the main quest isn't really boring. It's not boring at all. It's like, it's a focus of the game. Yes, sure. You know, the game wants you to do more than just that. You know, a lot of times to me, side quests in video games can feel like just busy work, kind of whatever. They're just there to say they added content. You can tell in Crimson Desert, they really put some thought into it and made the world feel so much more immersive. Now I'm only just in the 3rd chapter and I've got several hours in the game, if that tells you anything. Now that my contribution's quite a bit higher, I think it's like level 24, like the way people treat you and speak to you, act, you know, it's completely different, which is nice and very immersive. It's so immersive that I just feel myself like when I'm walking around the village, not even just sprinting through it and getting place to place, just kind of walking in and soaking in the environment because it's gorgeous. Petting all the animals, I had you know, being a huge dog person, I had to adopt a dog almost immediately. So that's pretty great. Now I have a little companion running around with me. I'll just kind of leave it at that at the main story. I mean, the quest that Moist Critical's talking about is super, super early. And right after that, you are in this huge boss fight and you figure out kind of what's going on around the village after you help these people out. And I spoke on it a little earlier about how, like in the Quarry, you know, it kind of feels like a power fantasy style thing when you're just ripping through people. The combat is amazing, and a lot of people have agreed on that. There's a lot of unique aspects to it with different weapons, different abilities. You can straight up WWE just finish people and launch them through the air, grapple them with your grapple ability, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff, and the combat feels great. Once they tune up the responsiveness of the controls, I think it'll be damn near perfect, and it rewards a lot of play styles. There's not really a wrong way to do it. However you want to beat the shit out of, you know, literally 100+ enemies, you can do that, and it's awesome, and it feels really good once you get it down. The last thing I'll kind of touch on here, without going, you know, just ramble, is kind of the world like I spoke on earlier, and graphically. The world really wants you to explore it. It's not about ripping through the main quest. I mean, I can't tell you, I told a friend of mine, this is like an ADH person's nightmare because I just get sidetracked on all kinds of stuff. I mean, I'll be going to do one thing and then I'm off on this long like quest line I wouldn't even think about. Next thing I know, I'm a couple hours later and I'm like, damn, what was I going back to do again? Which isn't, to me, isn't a bad thing. I love that in a game because you can just get lost for hours doing whatever. Whether I'm in the Sky Islands doing super interesting puzzles, or like I said, taking back a huge quarry, or picking up a bounty and trying to get them all the way back. I had to go halfway across the map this one time to like get a bounty and then try to get them out of enemy territory and take them all the way back to the jailer to get credit for it, you know, which is just super interesting. And if you just allow yourself to get lost in this world and explore, you're always rewarded for it. And it's so immersive and so fun and just absolutely breathtaking, especially at night. I mean, at night, looking at from the sky is unreal. You just see all the torches and where all these towns are. You can pick them all out through the mountains, which is, I mean, incredible. Like, I will just look around from a high vantage point so many times just because there's so much to take in. So, I mean, in conclusion, a lot of these reviews, I hope what I've said just kind of like puts in perspective that I just don't agree with them and kind of, you know, why. It's like these people didn't even give it 5 hours and they just gave up on the game. And for a game that you can very easily put in a few hundred hours, sometimes it's going to be a slow burn start to set up the world. I mean, hell, Hernan, the first village, is basically one big tutorial that introduces you to all the different mechanics the game has. I mean, there's so many different vendors and NPCs that you can just shop at and that you can get quests from early on. It's unreal. And like, I didn't even know there was a freaking banking system in the game. I just wandered into this building. Next thing I know, I open up a freaking bank account and I'm investing gold bars. If the game can keep up that pace or just take what it has and just carry it out through the whole thing, I mean, it's 10 out of 10 for me. Like, I love fantasy stuff. I love games where I can just get lost in the world. That paired with a great combat system, a lot of things to explore and find out, and puzzles. I mean, for me personally, I don't know what more I could ask for in a game. But I hope that sways some of your all's opinions if you were thinking negatively about it. If not, I'm curious to see if you were thinking about picking it up or even have several hours in the game or several, you know, tens, hundreds of hours, whatever. Just let me know what you think about it in the comments because I want to hear your all's opinions too, and I'd love to, you know, talk with you about it. But either way, that'll pretty much wrap it up. I'll see you in the next one. Later.